currently a social worker. I'm an independent contractor, and I've been in that position since 1993.
I was Chief Financial Officer of the Marvel Entertainment Group for about 19 years and left the company in 1993 and became an elementary school teacher, and was for the last 17 years until I retired this past June. As I recall, our telephone rang and Michael was at the other end of the phone and introduced himself and started talking about long-term care insurance, which my wife and I had been thinking about, and I invited him to come over and make a presentation to us. It troubled me greatly reading and learning about Steve Reeves, the person who played Superman, and the 9 years or so that he spent needing that kind of care. And I realized that long-term care is not always needed just because someone becomes sick. There are accidents and unforeseen events in life.
I was particularly concerned because my mother had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, and I had a fear that if I were to suffer from the same illness, I didn't want the burden to be on Barry or my children. It was a concern of mine when my mother became ill as to how we were going to help out. My parents were certainly not in a financial position to be able to provide for her. Fortunately, or unfortunately, she did not suffer for a very long time with Alzheimer's because she died of another illness. But it was a concern of mine, so I thought very hard about what kind of burden it would be on my children, and on Barry too, because if I did develop an illness like that, it would be, hopefully long before his death. And I didn't want him to have to worry about how he was going to take care of me or what he would have to sacrifice in order to provide for me. Pleasurable, first of all. And Michael came, he's a very personable young man, and he did a very professional presentation, a PowerPoint presentation. There was no pressure involved. He just gave us all the information that we needed to have in order to make a decision about what we wanted to do. And he gave us some time to make that decision so that we were able to talk about it and think about it before we actually signed on for this kind of insurance.
Michael has also kept in touch with us, which I appreciated, and it's always a pleasure when he comes over to the house. Our meetings are always filled with a little bit of laughter and fun.
It gives me a tremendous sense of security and lets me sleep peacefully at night. I don't worry about that. I know that the money that we have been spending to maintain this kind of protection has been very worthwhile in terms of the feeling of, as I said, security and sereneness, or serenity, I should say. There's nothing to lose by sitting down and meeting with someone, especially, as I said earlier, Michael is not a high-pressure salesperson. He's not going to put you in a position where you feel like you have to say yes and sign any kind of documents before he walks out of your house. So I would certainly recommend that they sit down and gather the information and speak to somebody who is a professional and very knowledgeable in the field, rather than try to learn it on their own through the internet or something like that.
I just heard recently a lot of people saying, well, they can't afford insurance, but then they go out and spend $250 for a new pair of sneakers or jeans. So it really is a matter of priorities. And if you think about what can happen in a person's life, insurance should be one of those priorities. And I agree that Michael is just a fountain of knowledge and a person who's just easy to speak with. We have some friends who've been thinking about it, and the one drawback that they come up with is not wanting the coverage, but it's that they don't think they can afford it at this point. It can be rather costly. My answer to them usually is, I don't think you really can afford not to. If you think about the assets you have and how much it would cost for a period of just as short a time as 1 year to have to spend the money out of pocket for the kind of services you might need, and end up draining most, if not all, of your assets, and then the person, what do you do after that?
And I have been speaking to some people, some younger people, and Barry was talking about people who are in our age bracket now, who are past the age of 60, but I have talked to people who are in their 50s through my work, especially. I work in adoptions, and so I'm often meeting with young couples who are in their 40s, and early 50s, in fact. And I talk with them about that kind of protection for themselves and for their future, and suggest that it's something that they really should consider. I agree with Barry. It's not something that you really should put on the back burner. It's something that you really need to think about for your own survival.
I love golf.
I was just going to say that.
Pretty avid about it, and it's a pretty safe sport. But I also like power walking, and I used to be an avid runner. So my power walking is still where I used to run, which is on the streets, on the roads. So it's a little concern I have is sometimes the cars are a little less careful than I'd like them to be, which is another reason to have that long-term care insurance.
And we also enjoy scuba diving, although we don't do that as often as we used to. But after this coming up vacation, I'm planning the next trip will be a diving vacation, so we have some of those things in mind. We used to do a lot of hiking, but then arthritis hit, so now it's a little difficult. So we do more trekking than hiking.
I would say things that you never think will happen to you most often do.
Well, that's an interesting comment. I would say to the next generation to also, besides living your life to the fullest now, also give some thought to what you want your life to be like in the future. Because, as I said before, given current medical advances and so on, people are living a lot longer, and there's probably going to be a need for people to have more care provided for them while they're still alive than they thought before. You know, we live longer, and other kinds of things happen, just as I said before, arthritis, other kinds of problems, illnesses, and so on. So I think that people should give some thought to their future, their aging future, and how they want to live out the remaining years of their life.